You are listening to Thunderbolt Sports Talk. Here are your hosts, Charlie Adams and Timothy Yean.
Welcome to the second episode of Thunderbolt Sports Talk here at Cranston East. We're going to cover a lot of Cranston East sports, and we're going to do it with our new guest, Mr. Simone.
I cannot tell you in proper words how excited I am to be here with you guys today.
As always, I'll be joined by Tim Yean on the podcast.
Yeah, nice to meet you guys again for episode 2.
Tim Yean meeting us for the 200th time. This podcast, we're going to go over some East sports results of this week, get to know Mr. Simone a little more, and delve into some pro sports topics that's on everyone's mind. Tim, why don't you start us off with the East sports results?
All right, well, not too much winning once again, but tennis, okay. We got tennis, and that's going for us. 6-1 win against Johnson yesterday. Typical winners again: Helena Fisher, Olivia Tomaselli, Thora Corcoran. Doubles winners for period means Waldorf, Hart, Sigler, and Shaw and Hassel, leading the way again. The main soccer story for girls soccer, at least, Bella Dupree is back and back in action. Had a double-digit saving effort in the loss against Tollgate yesterday, 3-0. Lost yesterday, 2 days ago against St. Ray's, 2-0. But great to see Bella Dupree back in action, wearing a brace though, so might take a little bit of time before we get back into action. Girls volleyball, 3-set lost to Mount St. Charles. 3-set lost to Cheraho yesterday. Cheraho, one of the better teams, one of the contending teams in D1 volleyball. So challenge was expected right there. And, field hockey got their first win yesterday versus Pilgrim, 1-0. The last 2 minutes of the game, Sophia Nardelli with a goal to secure the game. I know you made a fantastic graphic or drawing. If you want to shout that out, shout out to the weird Thunderbolt thing that you drew. Now, football, last Saturday wasn't looking too good against the D1, one of the only D1 teams in the state central. 44-8 there. Wasn't improving from last year, but it showed some heart. Adrian Foreman with a nice trick play pass into the end zone to Michael Terry. Really big play right there.
Yeah, Mr. Simone, let's get your take on some of these stories over Cranston East sports. The biggest one being Bella Dupree's return. I know she hopped in the Cranston West booth and helped you out over there. How big is that for the Cranston East girls soccer team?
Well, from what the reports I'd gotten on girls soccer, needing her back was essential for them to have a shot to win some games. And she's not only a trained goalkeeper, but an extremely athletic and experienced one. The fact that she's back from an ACL, and I'm borrowing this from Tim Yean, that she came back from her ACL injury quicker than Kyler Murray has come back from his. We remember when she went down in the Christmas tournament, Murray had already torn his 2 weeks before. Bella's back in net and apparently has been very busy. Then Kyler Murray's taking his time while the Cardinals try to lose as many games as possible and replace him with somebody better next year. So good to see and hear that Bella's back in net, and I'm quite sure she'll be on the sidelines for the school on the other side of the city, taking pictures and videos and doing her thing there. Girls tennis is our juggernaut. They are our Jedi hope for conquering some evil empire. I know Coach Hockman has that as a well-oiled machine right now, so that'll likely continue today against PCD. Girls volleyball, I know, is up against it. It's hard to rebuild in Division One. They saw one of the contenders in Charahoe last night. I'll actually be doing their match at Prout on Monday, which, in all honesty, will probably be a very quick event for me to do. And then doesn't get any easier for the Bolts. They have to go out to Portsmouth, who I saw play Prout, and that also was a very quick match the other night. So, like I said, it's hard to rebuild in Division One.
Yeah, and going a little closer to home for you potentially, talking about Cranston East football, obviously facing a Division One powerhouse in Central last time out, but looking to tonight where they're going to face South Kingstown in their first league matchup. How do you think that one shakes out?
Well, going down to South Kingstown is an interesting location. I mean, I live in South Kingstown, but where this game is being played is one of the more hostile environments A lot of the locals like to go. Is one of the saloons in the area. Their fans will be plenty, as Tom Brady said at one time. They will be lubed up for this game. And South Kingstown makes the wise decision, first of all, to go on the opposite side of the field from where the stands are. So the fans will be right on top of East, and then on the field, South Kingstown for years, you know exactly what they're going to do. They're going to run the ball. They're going to run it directly down your throat until you stop it. And they have a freakish athlete as their left halfback, a converted wide receiver, Armani Boma, that, um, as I guess you guys like to say, he's a problem. And if you don't tackle him at the line or behind the line, you're going to have a hard time catching him. So everything they do comes down to, can they get off the field? And now this week, can they stop the run of somebody coming right at them? Whereas last week, it was trying to tackle these ridiculous athletes in space.
Yep, Central had some great success on the run, and it's going to be another tough one if the Bolts can't stop the run today. What's your thoughts on the game, Tim?
Well, I mean, whatever Mr. Simone said, true. You know, Boma, just one of the hardest runners in the D1 right now, and gonna be a problem. As we termed it realistically, that that if they don't stop the run, it's going to be a problem on offense. You got to find something that'll get going. I mean, Adrian Foreman had some plays out of the Wildcat Central, as previously mentioned. Maybe they try out a little bit more of that tonight, see where that goes for them. But other than that, whatever Mr. Simone said, I agree with.
Well, so I think it's safe to say that we're not going to give away any secrets here because I don't think South Kingstown is waiting for this to drop. But you're going to see more of Foreman not only lined up in that we used to call it a Tebow formation, which tells you how long we've been running that set. That goes back to when Tim Tebow was actually in college, and then as the years progressed, we'd never changed the name. Um, Even when Tim Tebow was disgracing himself in the NFL. But you're going to see Foreman in lining up a quarterback in regular spread sets as well. Um, just getting the ball in because the skill players on the outside, especially these younger players, um, they are talented, and this is the first time that I've seen young talent with a chance to really be special in a number of years with this program. But as I said, I mean, even though it's not called Division One, they're still playing Division One teams, and it's hard to rebuild on the fly when you're playing against. There are no bad teams on their schedule this year, so it's a challenge. And they're also going down to a field that is bad grass. And when you're used to playing on field turf, like a bad grass divotty field, it takes a while to get adjusted to.
Yep, sticking with the South Kingston matchup, I'm looking at our ledger today, and Tim, I think you've included money line betting on here. If you want to hand out some warnings and maybe some bets that you're willing to hand out.
Don't bet. If you're under 18, I know some people that might break the law. I'm not gonna name any one of them, but do not bet. Do not bet. Do not bet. Do not bet. Do not listen to what we say. Do not try and go into some type of illegal high school sports book where that might be an issue there. But girls volleyball. I mean, let's look at the matches today actually. So I'll pull that up right now. Football. I take SK on that. I mean, Amani Boma, like you said, Mr. Simone's gonna be basically unstoppable if they can't get a tackle on him, and I think that'll be a nice win for them there tonight. Um, Girls tennis, looking at it, I'm going all in on the girls tennis team again. Realistically, I'm not going all in because I cannot gamble right now. But if I were to, and high school sports gambling was illegal, I would take that 100%. Um, I mean, looking ahead, kind of rare one, cross country. Saturday and Monday. I think Cam Felici, and the freshman Cohen Brinker have been running well. So, obviously, I'm gonna favor them and take them as a top two. And
Top two in the race,
top two in the race. Top
the
two in the
entire
race.
race.
The entire race. I
Okay.
am that confident. I am that 99% of times. You might not win it all. That 1% though, I'm going all in and I'm betting all the marbles on Cohen Brinker and Cam Felici.
to be the top two in the race.
Yes.
It's a lot of confidence.
That leads into a little bit about Mr. Simone attending University of Nevada, Las Vegas for casino management. Tell us a little about that.
Um, yeah, so when you're saying, and I think the statute of limitations has run out, but when I was your age, I may or may not have had an enterprise in which I provided others with the opportunity to prove their confidence on certain sporting events. And one thing I learned in my brief time in Las Vegas, I would like to, thank my late mother for not sending back the confirmation of my financial aid package. So when I arrived at UNLV, there was no way to pay for any of it. Um, but one thing I did learn, not only from my own experience and also from my experience out there, is that as the person who is, if you're the person showing confidence and risking, eventually you're going to lose, and what you lose will be with me. The house or the provider of the opportunity will always keep winning in the end. So I would go along with what you said. Even if somebody was tempted to, don't just make a donation to a charity, because sooner or later, that's where the money's going. It's going to somebody else. Um,
Might as well gamble that money and donate that winning money to charity.
or you could not risk losing it. And I mean, there's lots of commercials with those sad looking pets that, like, with the music that just rips your heart out. They could use that help. You know, I would find better use to. I would burn it before I would risk it on somebody else's performance.
All right. You moved back to Rick, got a bachelor's of science in elementary education and teaching, went into Cranston Public Schools. I think you've been there ever since.
You've been on my LinkedIn, huh?
Oh yeah, I'm sitting on it right now. So now
Yep.
we
So you missed a 2-year stop at Bryant University,
Benson
um,
College.
which is when it was a college and it was a one building, and when you're expecting to spend your days and nights in Las Vegas and then you find yourself in Smithfield, Rhode Island, I'm not going to lie, that was a bit of a letdown. So while I was at Bryant, I started coaching with Mr. Centauri and his dad, and that led me into education and led me to Rhode Island College. And yeah, I've been here an awfully long time now.
and as you transferred over to Cranston East, I believe you started Thunderbolt Sports Media, and it started with one Mo Holtzman. Can you tell us about the origins of Thunderbolt Sports Media?
Yeah, so when I retired from coaching after the 2018 season, I realized that I was kind of bored, but I knew I couldn't physically keep up with the demands of coaching. And I was introduced to Mo um, through actually a former elementary student of mine, Abby Sparks, the daughter of one Mr.
Oh
Sparks.
my God.
And when I got to talking to him, it just seemed like this was a student with, first of all, he was, as you know from Mo, he was a professional broadcaster when he was 16, and we needed to provide him with an opportunity, but there was none. So we started working on a club, and that turned into a possible career pathway. Um, and honestly, we went up to meet with John Rook at Dean College, and we're planning all this out to provide Mo and some other students who were really crucial behind the scenes at that time, with their opportunity. And the next week, COVID hit, and everything was shut down. So we got to do some work and give Mo some experience during the full COVID year of 2021. But Tim, that was when you joined us, and as you remember, I think things were anything but normal then.
No.
Um, but Mo, I know, is having the time of his life at Syracuse now. So my hope is that we send you two off into the world after this year, and that you guys have equally as much of a fun time and productive time as he is. And so, if this club can provide students who are interested in a career in this industry, that's great. If we find out, we've just found others that like to be part of something. We've found that our social media director is like a professional as a high school student, so she's amazing. Um, so this club is just its goal is to provide exposure for our varsity athletes.
Yeah, and I want to talk a little bit more about Mo. I think he's covering soccer matches now at Syracuse, or at least in the terms of social media. So that's fantastic for him. Mo, the Mulder Holtzman, older brother of Caden Holtzman, has been just a he was just beginning of my freshman year. He was just a fantastic role model to have. I mean, when we were across from you guys at the press box, because literally 6 feet apart was maybe a little bit too risky, so we had to move an entire court side length to actually broadcast. He was a great guy to teach me about things. He taught me about speaking loud, speaking clear, speaking with your thoughts and minds, and he's been I mean, although I haven't been in contact with him too much, I know he's doing a lot at Syracuse. He's just been one of the most incredible and important people to me that I've ever met in my life, including you, Mr. Simone.
And if you see Mo's other social media, not the soccer one, Mo is making the most of his opportunity in college. He's yeah, that's how to do it. That when you go away to school, that's how you do it.
Yeah, would have been really funny if Mo Holtzman decided to do the greatest thing ever and transfer to Ohio State so he can be a little bit closer with his brother Gaten at Michigan.
And from what I've seen about that rivalry, your allegiance to your school is thicker than your family bloodline. So that may have divided the brothers.
Okay, so Charlie, do you want to bring us into the next topic?
Sure, I know you mentioned Thunderbolt Sports Media and varsity athletes. A little controversy over the weekend talking about JV coverage in Cranston East. Would you like to clear the air on why JV just doesn't have as much coverage in Thunderbolt Sports Media?
Yeah, and the first thing I'd say is, as a parent of a student athlete, and as just a parent, I get it that parents would like to see their child's accomplishments publicized. I think I don't know of anybody that wouldn't. However, as a coach for over 25 years, and now having been involved in high school athletics in one way or another for over 35, there is just not coverage of junior varsity and freshman events. It just doesn't exist because the varsity team in whatever sport, that is the show. And whether you're in a lower division or whether you're playing for Hendrick in football, that's where the notoriety, the exposure comes from, because you're playing against the other best players. Now, we don't have the time nor the manpower to even try to cover JV and freshman sports. We're also, in our business, we're at the mercy of the quality of information that we can get from teams. And, there are a lot of times we can't even get accurate information on varsity teams, much less a junior varsity or a freshman team. Some teams are outstanding at it. Like I know girls volleyball keeps the same statistics for JV as they do for varsity, but there's nobody like that. And so rather than be inconsistent, because if we publicize some results but not others, that would be the complaint that we would be dealing with. And I already know that the blame wouldn't be shifted towards the coaches not reporting. It would be on us. And that would be it. And anything we said after that would be ignored. So I do understand it. I'm sure. But my offer to these teams, if they feel like they're not being publicized, they can create their own social media accounts for just specifically junior varsity. We would be happy to post and reshare, but we're we don't have the time to cover every single event, nor should we.
Yeah, as a proud junior on JV baseball, I got a lot of requests from my teammates to provide coverage for them. I may have dived into it one or two times on a occasion, but definitely not something that is sustainable for Thunderbolt Sports Media.
Not a full time thing. Not a full time thing.
Yeah. And if we don't have anything else we want to cover in East sports, maybe let's move on to the professional sports world and we'll jump back over to East after and talk about a little homecoming week following talk about the Patriots loss to the Dolphins this last Sunday where they plan on facing the Jets this week. It's going to be the Patriots looking to go 15-0 in their last 15 against the Jets, line favoring the Patriots. How's this one going to shake out, and how are the Patriots going to bounce back?
Well, first of all, let me tell you, I love watching football. I hate watching Patriot games now because it feels like at some point they're going to raise our hopes where we may enjoy the ending, but something's going to happen and we're going to be let down. Usually, I would say they're playing the Jets, and the Jets will jet, and Zach Wilson, now playing quarterback, is uh, he wouldn't probably start for our JV team with the way that he plays against the Patriots. Um, I honestly don't know. And now listening to the weather forecast coming in, um, it's going to be even more of, just the Jets' physicality versus the Patriots' physicality, and who can make a play in the end, or honestly, who can avoid messing up. Now, if that's the case, I will take Zach Wilson screwing up more times than the Patriots. But the Patriots do very unpatriot-like things now, which are create crucial turnovers, commit penalties in crucial spots that either extend drives, or we've seen the offense, in 1st and 25 already multiple times in the first 2 weeks. So as much as I think ultimately Zach Wilson will mess it up, I like I said, I would not bet on it.
If we go with 0-3 and it's versus the Jets, I'm not saying we need to fire Bill Belichick. I mean, it's overreaction by a lot of people to fire Bill Belichick, but obviously 0-3 with a Hall of Fame head coach or a guaranteed Hall of Famer head coach, very concerning. I mean, it's been the same basic script for the last 2 weeks. For the first 2 weeks of Pats football, do bad for a good amount of time, or at least a decent chunk of time, or at least in the start. Gain some hype, and then everything blows after like one play, and then you're sad again, and then you're depressed again, and then I have to go into Monday just thinking about why did I stay up until 11 o'clock to watch this game. And for the Jets, I mean, Zach Wilson, like you said, Mr. Simone again. I I'm hoping to God he messes up somehow. I mean, maybe the magic touch of Aaron Rodgers from the offseason might have him make some smarter decisions, but I'm not gonna guarantee that. I mean, look what happened versus Dallas last week, and for the Patriots, hopefully that offense can continue to keep going. I know Bill O'Brien and Mac Jones have established a solid connection together. Mac's putting up more solid numbers than he was ever last season, and the defense, Marcus Jones on IR now, so that'll be a question mark at the corner. But Gonzo looking good though, so I'm thinking it's going to be more of a defensive front battle.
I'm going to flip the script. I'm going to ask you guys, what do you think as you watch the Patriots? What are their biggest issues?
Well, I just can't stand watching the Patriots starting off these games terribly slow, not coming out of the gate fast. It might be a game planning issue for your first series, but they're just not getting out of the gate and not putting up points early, and then they're having to claw their way back at the end.
And who do you hold responsible for the slow starts?
I mean, I think it has to do with the offensive line. They can't block at the start of the game enough to get the run game going early, and it's costing them as the game goes on.
And who do you hold responsible for the offensive line issues?
I'm gonna put it on Cole Strange. He lost last week's game, not able to get the first down, and we drafted him first round pick. Last year he had some struggles, and the offensive line, they haven't righted the ship yet. So I'm just gonna toss it all onto Cole Strange.
And I'm going to follow this up. Who do you hold responsible for Cole Strange being a first round pick last year?
Well, I think the blame has to go to Bill Belichick or potentially his dog with that kind of pick.
I
I
don't
know.
think, yeah, I don't, Nike picked Kyle Duggar. I don't think we can blame Nike. But my opinion is that the person picking the players in which they are constantly looked at. Now, defensively, they seem to have more talent than the offensive side of the ball. But if you cannot rush the passer and you cannot cover, then defensively you're ultimately going to be in trouble. Now, they've definitely got some pass rushing pieces, and as you said, Christian Gonzalez looks like they're really lucky that he fell to them at number 17 this year. Um, but on the offensive side of the ball, the repeated mistakes in evaluating talent, when you watch the Patriots, they don't have, even bad teams seem to have more explosive athletes. The example the other night, how many plays did the Patriots run, those little wide receiver screens or swing screens that went for 2 or fewer yards?
I'm not gonna lie, probably a lot. I mean,
And they ran the same, and the Dolphins ran the same play to Jalen Waddle, a top flight pick, and he took it 30 yards on like 2nd and 18.
yeah,
So right now, when I watch this, I don't necessarily blame the players because when the Patriots were on a roll, they were prepared better, they played smarter, and I'm starting to now think that it may be time for a change in terms of who's picking the players and who's coaching them, because when the same thing keeps happening over and over, I think it's starting to become obvious where the top issue is.
Yeah, and the biggest issue when you're talking about Bill Belichick is if you let him beat Don Shula's win record, not in a New England stadium or a New England jersey, it's going to rub fans the wrong way, the same way it rubbed fans the wrong way watching Tom Brady go out to Tampa Bay and win his Super Bowl. How will how could the Patriots approach that, and do you think they would approach firing Bill Belichick?
Well, if the ownership wants to take the Belichick way, Bill Belichick has never cared about players achieving records or keeping them around, and he's always gotten rid of players accurately, but usually a year too early. I mean, Brady's the exception, but that were exceptional circumstances. But the other, star players that he's let go, when fans were clamoring for them to stay, he's usually been proven right. So if you apply that same logic, whether or not he breaks Don Shula's record at all or in a Patriots, cutoff hoodie, should not be a factor. And I do think you're getting an irritated fan base of watching, because this has been now 4 years of watching crap, and we're not used to that. I hear from a lot of Patriot fans who are a little older than me. It's like it feels like the last 25 years never happened, and we're back to where we were before. And I think that frustration may override if whether or not he breaks the record as a Patriot coach or at all.
Yeah, in my lifetime, I've only seen winning from these Patriots. It's hard to see them on the other end of the ball. Patriots again facing the Jets this weekend. The big story going into the season for the Jets was the addition of Aaron Rodgers, and now the big story is that they don't have Aaron Rodgers. Another victim to the turf. It seems like a lot of big players have been injured this season. What's the difference between turf and grass, and why is it taking so many players out of the season?
Well, there's two sides to this. Now, I know from a coaching point of view, I would rather be playing on turf than grass because I know what the surface is going to be. And even if the weather is bad, like the weather's supposed to be bad on Sunday, at least you're going to be dealing with a wet ball. You might be dealing with wind, which wind is the worst from an offensive standpoint. Wind and with the kicking game, wind is way worse than anything else. From a defensive standpoint, it really helps because you know that for half the game, if the wind is that severe, you only have to defend one thing. But from a player point of view, I know that they have, to a man, said that they would rather play on grass. The one thing I would say is, eventually in the Northeast, in about a month, playing on grass, you might as well play in the parking lot. That's how hard it gets. And there's no traction at all. But I do think that a lot of these injuries are happening. Some of them are just coincidences. Other, it has to do with the fact that the grass will slide. If your foot gets stuck most of the time, the grass will slide out. Whereas turf, because of the filling, because of the fibers, your 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 foot's gonna stick, and the rest of your body goes, and that's where you get a lot of the ligament tears and the tendon popping. Um, but when I can tell you though, people have short memories because when the Patriots used to really intentionally destroy their grass field at Gillette. Like they would play with mud. And it wasn't until it hurt their own performance that they ripped it out and they went to turf in the middle of the 2006 season. So when they used grass as an advantage, it was fine. The NFL wasn't happy, but they would, especially when Peyton Manning would come to town with the Colts back in the day, um, there would be no lawn maintenance and you might see the sprinklers turned on like the night before the game so that they had to play in mud. But it's hard to grow good grass in the Northeast. It just is. So I think you'd also see if everybody switched to grass within a few years, you're going to start hearing the complaints about the grass is terrible. Go back to the consistent playing surface.
Grass is always greener on the other side, as they say. We can move on to baseball, but I don't think we should, seeing as Red Sox eliminated from playoff contention and the Mets have been done since June. So we're gonna stick it with
Actually, I'd
football.
like to the Mets were eliminated when this season started. So the only positive side is I don't have to shell out for playoff deposit this year.
Yeah, well, you came into the season with two aces, and two aces go out of the door in about 5 months after. It's highest payroll in baseball and nothing to show for it. It's not a good scene there in New York. I don't
Well,
think
I've
you'll be.
got something to show for it. It was a 20% increase in my tickets for next year. So, yeah, I'm not happy. I I strongly consider I'm giving it one more year before I may cut loose. If they have a bad season again next year, I can't justify spending money on that debacle.
But you'll stay as a fan, right?
Oh, of course, I've been a Met fan since I was 3. I that Met hat was put on my head from the side of my family that historically has made bad decisions in life. And being in the New York area, that my life would probably be a lot easier had they made me a Yankee fan. But I try to tell my sons because at least I've seen a Mets World Series championship. Now, granted, I was 11, and I may not see one again before my time on Earth is up. But if it ever does happen, that day will be glorious.
I know you. I know you told us you began learning to read through the newspaper, reading the sports section. Was your first article was a Mets article?
No, because I mean I was relying on the Providence Journal, so it was probably more about how bad the Celtics were before Larry Bird came along. And then, I found it funny that the guy's last name was Bird, so I tended to go more towards Celtics articles. And he was definitely my sports god growing up. But yeah, sports section of the Providence Journal.
All right, let's keep it with pro sports, talking about the XFL and USFL merging potentially two. I don't even know if you could consider them B tier leagues to the NFL. They're pretty. The product's all right. They got The Rock involved, but you got spring football. It's been tried plenty of times in the past, and I don't think it's worked yet. Is this what the spring football season needs?
Oh, I think it's so irrelevant that like it's not the NFL. It's never going to be the NFL. And I just think there should be some sort of developmental league between the NCAA and the NFL. But the only good thing was that the USFL brought back the classic colors and teams from the 80s when it was entertaining and they had Hall of Fame talent in their league and may have been a viable alternative to the NFL until a certain former president who was owning one of the franchises insisted that they move to the fall and try to take on the NFL. And then they went bankrupt and out of business.
Yeah, not such a great decision by one of our great American leaders. Um, as my one of my favorite teachers in the class in Cranston East would say, Mr. Thomas Lavoie. Shout out to the Lavoister. Like good for you. So whenever he s- s- whenever he saw somebody do some good thing, just be like that. A very quotable man, and I have the same reaction to this merger. All right, so now we transfer it to the Colorado State game. Actually, Shaz doesn't want me to talk about that right now, so I, I guess we can talk about the new Bruins jerseys. Chaz, you want to take some comments on it?
Yeah, I know. My good friend Tristan Tingley had a great reaction to the jerseys. They're a throwback looking jersey for the 100th anniversary of the team. Along with the Bruins' new jerseys, you have a new captain in Brad Marchand. Assistants are going to be Charlie McAvoy and David Pasternak this season following Bergeron's retirement. So it's going to be a new look for the Bruins and some new jerseys. Mr. Simone, did you get a chance to look at the jerseys, and what are your thoughts?
Well, honestly, I've been too busy celebrating my Vegas Golden Knights Stanley Cup championship. I know it's been a while since Bruins fans got to see that, but the Stanley Cup is what you win when you are the best team in hockey. I did see, as a lover of uniforms and good uniforms, I understand the throwback, aspect to it, celebrating the 100th. Um, I've loved the NHL's reverse retro series since they came out with those uniforms. It's been a great way to combine like old looks with new colors and vice versa. But I know that the Bruins have been pretty consistent, except when they once were primarily brown. And I have to say, I haven't seen this year's version so much, but I know the Winnie the Pooh type bear got a lot of heat, and I didn't really have a problem with it. I don't think you can go wrong with a bear. Like a bear is a bear, cute bear, scary bear, fat bear.
Chicago there.
They've got character. They definitely have character.
They are one of my favorite jerseys to pick when playing NHL on my Xbox. The Vegas Golden Knights saw a success very quickly as a expansion team in major part due to the expansion draft, and you saw it change with the Seattle Kraken, and you saw how bad they were. So, two conference championships for the Golden Knights and one Stanley Cup. They're a good franchise, but the overall winning of the Bruins, and I mean, winningest team last year, and all it gets is a first round elimination. But I think there's big things happening for the Boston Bruins in the future, and they'll continue to succeed. Let's move on to potentially our last pro sports topic of the day, unless anyone else has anything else to contribute. We have the Colorado and Colorado State game, one of the most viewed games in professional sports this past weekend. It was a overtime win for Colorado, and ESPN and every other sports outlet has been shoving Deion Sanders down our throats ever since.
I would love to have not admired what Coach Prime does, because as a coach, and this is probably why my time to do that has passed, is I cringe at attention for an individual, including a coach. But I don't think you can argue that his energy and vision in being able to take what was being done at, you know, an FCS school, bring most of those same players up to Division 1 and be 3-0 and ranked in the top 20. And the excitement that Colorado fans are feeling right now, I can't argue with it. And I think he's probably at the forefront of what college coaches are going to have to be. And so that's why you see coaches taking shots at him, because they're going to have to do what he's doing, and a lot of them just aren't capable of it. Now, he's going up different, going up against the CSU Rams in overtime is different than going to Eugene, Oregon, and the zoo that is going to be Outson Stadium and trying to take down the Ducks. If they do it this week, I have no doubt that they'll compete in every game, including against USC, because while USC may score 100, Colorado may score 101 against them.
Yep. Tough schedule heading into Oregon and USC in back-to-back games. They'll be doing it without their potentially best player on the team, Travis Hunter, knocked out by a hit against Colorado State. I was talking with Tim last week. Do you think Travis Hunter is first pick overall potential, and do you think he could play both ways in the NFL?
I do think he could play both ways in the NFL. The problem with the NFL is that they keep making the same mistakes over and over again when evaluating talent. And if you watch Travis Hunter, he is the best defensive back on the field. He's the best wide receiver on the field. But an NFL team will try to convince themselves that he can't do it. They will try to poke holes in his game to knock him down, to where instead of just taking, yeah, you're getting a football player that could potentially impact you on both sides. And if he's going to really be the first person to try to do it, like, yeah, Deion was primarily a defensive back who got some trick plays on offense every once in a while. Nothing has been seen Like nothing's been tried like what Travis Hunter might be doing. But it's going to take if he goes to who would do it for Kansas City. Andy Reid would be at the forefront. Now they're never going to be bad enough to pick him, but wherever he goes, if he goes to a coach that's a visionary, this could be the start of something else. I mean, you're seeing it in baseball with people are now looking for two-way players like Otani, who can start and then in the 4 days or 4 or 5 days in between be one of the best hitters. So I, I'm convinced Travis Hunter could do it, but I don't know if he's going to be allowed to.
Yeah, there's a lot of noise this season, of course, when you have such a celebrity like Deion Sanders coaching. Doesn't seem to be as much heat on this Colorado Oregon game as the games previous, but it's not looking like a good idea to rile up Colorado. It's just the sunglasses 1 week. Matt Rules can't win on either level of football anymore. And then TCU, that was a shootout. It was a great game. So it's going to be a wild ride this season watching Colorado and watching Colorado potentially compete for one of the 4 spots in the football championship, which will go up to 12 next season. How do you think that changes the college football landscape?
I think it definitely gives. I love the idea of a bigger playoff. Just because it's more. I mean, the college bowl and playoff season is one of my favorites. My favorite time is March Madness, where you've got, game upon game of single elimination going on. And now we're going to take that and apply it to football. I can't wait. And I think if it was a 12-team playoff, I would bet on Colorado having been there this year. I don't think they're going to, unless it's USC, the Pac 12 champion is not going to be in the top four. They're just not going to have enough quality points to get up there. But next year in a 12 team, would you want to be, even if you're one of the first four with a bye and Colorado gets in as a 12 seed and potentially goes to play the number 4 team if they win their first game, do you want Colorado and Shador Sanders is going to stay? Travis Hunter is going to stay. Would you want to see them coming to town or go into the neutral site? I mean, I would want no part of them
Yeah.
because in a one-game situation, they could light you up and your season is done before it even gets started in the playoffs.
Yeah, I have to fully agree with you there, Mr. Simone. In terms of the 12 playoff scenario, I mean, when I introduced me to you in that opening email talking about college football, I was like, I'm not a big watcher of college football because every time I see it, Alabama beating some, I don't know, some small team like I don't know, wherever state university beating them like 5,700 to 2. And, with the introduction of a 12-team playoff, it's a lot more excitement, a lot more fans, and, it's just more better than the previously 4 teams. You get the same people that come in every year. You get the same champions basically every year. It might be changing with Georgia now in the fray, maybe the taking over as a new Alabama, and that's really awesome. Also, talking about Deion Sanders and the getting the glory on you, called prime time for a reason. And I think he's doing it right, doing it a lot better than whatever Brian Kelly was doing my sophomore year.
Well, yeah, well, Brian Kelly dancing was not good for
And
anybody.
and talking to the Louisiana people like this, really not working out so well for him right now, even though
Yeah, that was. I mean, what I think Coach Prime gets is everybody on his schedule is like the grumpy guy yelling, "Get off my lawn" to him because he's just doing it differently, and he hasn't been at this that long, and he's doing it better than a lot of career lifers. But it takes, I'm telling you, and coaching takes energy, it takes passion, and it takes an undying belief, and nobody has more of that than Coach Prime. So, I'm I'm here for the ride, and I can also tell you that having been to one of the college football semifinals, going back to when Joe Burrow and the LSU team just absolutely took Oklahoma behind the woodshed, and I watched Joe Burrow throw 7 touchdown passes in the first half. And now I had no rooting interest at all, other than that what I was watching was absolute greatness, and that was the day that really Justin Jefferson became a first-round pick because he had 4 of them in the first half. Um, the event itself is something that any sports fan I would say go experience it. Like absolutely is a must. Like my one of my bucket list items is a Rose Bowl, and now the Rose Bowl is going to be it's either going to be a quarterfinal or a semifinal game. I'm there for that, but I want to be in that stadium as the sun's setting on New Year's Day and, not worry about anything else other than what's going on the field. But those events are must-sees.
Okay. All right, Jazz. You want to keep talking about sport? I mean, professional sports, or should we bring it back to East?
I just want to mention one more thing about the 12-team playoff. A bunch of these sports, they're adding playoff games, and they're adding playoff games because they're the most money-making games that you can have. Baseball expanded their playoffs. I think they were hoping that they could go bigger, but fans didn't want it. A lot more money in the game in the playoffs in these big games, so it's going to be a good change for everyone to see the playoffs expand next year. Let's move over back to East. Let's move over to homecoming week next week, Tuesday through Friday and Saturday, the dance. So, Tim, what do we got on the ledger for homecoming week as student council president?
Okay, so I think we got a very, very exciting Spirit Week. I mean, not too exciting, but we gotta save the bigger one for later because it's still September. But we got a fantastic set of days here. We got the Monday, no school, thank goodness. A 3-day weekend. So, you know, just not doing a day on that. Tuesday, roll over and get out of bed. Tuesday, that's basically pajama day. I mean, I heard from one comment say that we already wear our pajamas to school in their normal days, and I'm like, okay, just wear that then. That's the easiest thing you could possibly do. Other than next Wednesday, we have class colors: freshman yellow, sophomore blue, junior white, senior green, and you're probably asking why we're not changing the colors. It's because of tradition. We got tradition in this school right here. We still keep on to some traditional values.
And isn't the tradition that, we've got green, we've got yellow and blue make green,
Yeah.
and we've got white as our other color? Like that's how it came. That's how it began.
Oh. I was always wondering why blue. I just
That's
made
where
that
the blue
connection.
came from.
I just made that connection right now. I thought I thought blue was just there as a placeholder, but okay. All right. Now Thursday is where we have the real controversy. I mean, let's talk about Friday first. Just class color day. Just wear green. Just wear Thunderbolt gear for the homecoming game. Green out. Be there. Be loud for our football team. But
Can I
yeah.
add one thing to our thunderstorm?
Yep.
Pay attention to what's going on the field. Having done a few games with another student section who makes a lot of noise, they sing a lot of songs, they dance. I don't think they know that there's a game going on the field. So good student sections cheer at the right times. They make noise when they should. They stay quiet when they should. Please, for the love of God, watch the game.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to be going to that student section later today because Fans Only Sports Network decided me to head out there. So should be an interesting experience. But let's move it. You know, rewind to Thursday. We have Twix and Twizzler Twin Day, dressed the same as a friend or a teacher. And it's not really the issue of the Twin Day being the main issue, but how we named the day. I've called it Twizzlergate as president. It's been a very serious allegation, apparently, that we didn't find the opportune time to name it Twinsler Day, which I believe is stupid. And I mean, it is not the Twinsler thing is not stupid, but the reaction to not naming it Twizzler Day or naming it Twizzler is stupid. I mean, it's a Spirit Day theme. What do you want?
Well, I just want to say it's looking like with Twix and Twizzlers being included in the name, you guys had two things that you were going for and you shoved it into one graphic. Twix are a pair. That makes sense. Twizzlers, you can change it to Twinslers. That's fine. But putting both of them is egregious. It makes no sense together. And I think you should step down. Just as student council president for this egregious error.
Okay.
And unless are Twizzlers really? I've never thought of them as being twins. I mean, they're
I mean, I think we had it there for like the pun purposes, but we just forgot to do the pun. But safe to say, I am not resigning, Charlie Adams, and I think the problem is that you're not involved with our student politics, with our student government, and we need a lot more of that because we have a lot of people complaining but not showing up. They hate us because they ain't us, and if you keep doing that, I mean, we're not going to get anything done unless you make your voice heard every Thursday's student council. We moved it just for you, Charlie Adams, because you have yearbook on Wednesday. I know you have it after school on Wednesdays. We're literally the editors. We're working on a scholarship, and make your voice heard, Charlie.
To quote you from earlier in the week, this is how the French Revolution started.
Yeah.
So be careful there in that ivory tower yelling down at the people.
Look, 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 look.
Maybe not have been started over cake. It may have been after chewy red candies.
I think I said that's how the French Revolution started after you vehemently refused to play what the people wanted and ski
Do the
by.
people really want that? I listened to that song and I think there's a person that wanted that, but I don't know about people.
I mean, might as well put it there. I mean, just like a timeout thing, but I think judging from one person, I think from the Thunderstorm leadership that
Nobody wants
the
to hear your own playlist. And that's what I tell
that's not
every single person that ever wants music. Nobody wants to hear what you want. I
right.
have to try to make everyone equally unhappy during the
That's
game.
true.
Satisfying people is not something that's ever going to get done with music, and apparently not with um, Halloween candies as well.
Yeah, apparently not, Charlie. Are you going to be attending any student council meetings?
Student council meetings, it's up in the air. I'm not sure. As we pass the 50-minute mark, What's any final thoughts that any topics that we haven't touched on that we'd like to talk about?
I do think that I think you should attend these meetings, and if you need to call for heads to roll over this missed opportunity for the pun, then that's your Thunderboltian right as a student. But in the meantime, I would think that next week should be a lot of fun. Spirit weeks here are a lot of fun, and then we'll have the parade stepping off, which thankfully I don't have to walk in anymore because that was a killer back in the day of walking. And there was a time that we walked to every game until we realized that crossing Reservoir Ave without traffic stopping and just like expecting cars and buses to stop for the football team walking across it was a bad idea. So at least now you get the police escort. We get all the teams walking in. It's a lot of fun, and it's a lot of fun, especially if we play well against Barrington, who has one of the top quarterbacks in the state and will be big, strong. So live up the Spirit Week and carry it into the game.
Yeah, that reminds me, Tim. I think I might show up to a student council meeting, but I might bring a little backup and we might overthrow you. I think that's a good idea. Maybe I'll show up then with half of TSM with me, Larry Yin, Angel Santana, Junior Joaquin Hernandez, Ashton Allison, RIP to TikTok, all showing up. We might overthrow you. So just be aware. We won't tell you when, but you will know.
All right. Well, it is your Cranstonian right and your A push right to recall my position. I'm not sure if that's legal here. I might make a proposition that will make it illegal. I mean, we saw it almost happen with the California governor, multiple times. So I'm not trying to have that happen to me. But if you want to overthrow me, you happily can.
I'll make sure to give it my best shot. So, as we're running out of time here, speak now or forever hold your peace. So we'll start to wrap up this podcast episode. All right. So, thank you for joining us on episode 2 of the podcast. And thank you to Mr. Simone for being our first guest of the podcast. Any last words for the Thunderbolt faithful?
Well, I want to thank you guys for letting me stop in, or accepting the fact that I can stop in anytime. But yeah, no, I would also put it out there to other guests that are offered a spot to be able to come on here. Do it. It's been a great time, and they will definitely have a lot of fun. I know I listened to this episode driving home from a game and was laughing out loud, literally laughing out loud in my car driving home, listening to the two of you. So if you can join, come on in, and if not, just keep listening.
All right. Next week, we'll be back here talking about Homecoming's game, talking about previous East results, and talking about what's going on in the sports world. Tim, sign us off.
Faux shizzle.